Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting and inspiring people like our new friend here, Richard, today, for our listeners to help them find the resources, tools, and support that they need to be their best inspired selves. Hi, Richard. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm very well, Jackie. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. I know it's a little later on your side of the world than it is on
Well,
ours.
it is. It's only 4 p.m., so I don't. I'm not in. I'm
Oh,
not in bed. I'm not in bed just yet. You know. I
that's
don't.
not so bad.
Yeah, I'm.
I
I'm okay. Yeah.
I forget how far apart everyone is. Because yesterday I interviewed someone from Australia, and it's like sometimes 13 hours different than where I am,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Very long way ahead of you. Yeah.
it was like 11:30 at night, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." She's like, "Ah, you Americans, you don't think about us." I was like, "Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
You don't care about us.
You don't care about us." But I got to listen to her awesome voice, so I was pretty good at that. So you had a lot of stuff going on, Richard. Why don't you just first tell us a little bit about yourself and what was it, magic sauce marketing and what's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
going
So
on?
yeah. So the magic sauce is all about finding out. Well, what is your magic sauce? Like, as in magic sauce being defined by me as the thing that separates you from all your competitors. What is it that you can do for your customers that is different to everyone else? So you see, like, say, fitness coaches. I've got loads of fitness coaches on my feed, and they're all talking about, eat less, move more, count calories, all that. And it just kind of blurs into one after a while. And it's like, well, if you see all that stuff everyone else is doing, how can you stand out from that? So a big part of what I do is helping people stand out from that. And the way I do that is helping them communicate that on their Facebook feed. So they add the kind of people that they would like to have as clients. And then they make posts that communicate this magic sauce and how they stand out from a crowd and make those posts entertaining and engaging and all the things people want on Facebook, as opposed to just like really boring sales messages like buy my stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
And that leads to people appearing in their messenger inbox being like, hey, can you help me out with this? I've got this problem, but this sounds, maybe you can, I like what you said here, can you help me out? And then they filter out the ones who they don't want to work with, who aren't quite right, who maybe have no money or whatever, and convert the rest. And literally, if you had a high ticket program, let's say it was 5K and you sold one a week, well, you're making 20K a month there, which is, not peanuts, especially not in this day and age where, we've got all the stuff going on.
Yeah. So I love that you named the kind of the secret sauce. I know the generic version of that right out in the industry is USP or unique selling
Yeah.
point, but that doesn't really speak to people who maybe didn't go to business school. Like, what the hell does USP mean, right? Like, but
Exactly. Yeah.
but what's your secret sauce? What's your magic sauce? I mean, I think that's something that people can relate to. Um, I think that you just alluded to a misconception that I've heard, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Is I heard a lot of people say that you can't actually sell high ticket offers on Facebook, that, in order to really sell those, you have to do a lot of outbound marketing. You need to be doing a lot of speaking engagements. You need to be doing a lot of live type events, which right now is clearly scaring people because they're
Mm.
like, what the hell? I can't sell.
Yeah. Not easy
How
to
do I
do a
live?
live event now. Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe that's not how you perceive that. What's your thoughts on kind of
Well,
high ticket versus social
well,
media?
my high ticket course at the moment is 6.5K in US dollars, and I sell that fairly regularly. And I have done a total of 0 speeches and live events. So it kind of tells its own story. But the key thing is, I mean, people always get tied up in rules and regulations and be like, oh, you can't, Guru X said you can't do this. And that's what, if this big guru said this, it's good enough for me. But I always look and go, well, is somebody somewhere signing up for a high ticket course through Facebook? Yes, they are. It is happening. So what is going on in that process? And I go, well, in that process, if I was to give 10K to someone, let's say, or 5K or whatever, and most people's courses are 5K for some reason. So let's say 5K. If I'm going to give 5K to someone, well, what do I need? Their content needs to be relevant to me. So whatever problem I've got, or it might not be a problem, but I might be operating here in my business, let's say. Let's say I'm earning, to throw out a number, 100K a year in my business, and someone says, look, you're doing great, 100K a year. Most people aren't earning anything, but you could be making 250 with the same level of effort. And here's how I did it. Here's how I made the leap. Here's how all these clients just like you made the leap with no extra effort. And they show all that in a really credible, believable way. without seeming sleazy and hard salesy and all that. And they just tell these stories and they make the post fun and they make it kind of interesting to read on my feed when I'm just scrolling and I'm bored. Over time, what you find is that people start to trust you. That's the great thing about doing this on your Facebook personal profile, is that it's not a one-shot deal. It's not like seeing an ad in your newsfeed and you either click it and you go and sign up, or you never see them again. I mean, I know they can remarket to you, but it's like they see you once and they go, okay, cool. But if they keep on seeing these messages, if they keep on seeing people just like them who are getting results with whatever it is you teach, they're going to start being like, okay, even though I'm the most skeptical person in the world and I've been burned by like 17 high ticket similar offers before, this person seems to have the goods,
Yeah.
because this person's helped loads of people just like me who've also been burned loads of times and they're now getting results. I might just send him a message. And that's the difference. It's like if you just think, oh, I'm going to make one post on my Facebook feed, it's probably not going to work. It's about trust and credibility. But if you see it as a campaign over a month or two where you put out this content consistently, where you've got valuable stuff that they're not hearing from other people, you're showing that credibility, you're being entertaining and engaging, well, people are going to start appearing in your inbox because they're going to
Yeah.
start to believe you can help them.
Yeah, I love that. So something else that I've heard it called infotainment and
Mm,
or edutainment or educate, all of the kind of, and it sounds like you have sort of a similar philosophy that you have to both be unique in some way with like what's your magic sauce, but also, you got to stand out some way quick enough before, right, like before they get in. And so, other advice I've heard this from my guru's a douchebag. So people always say, don't, you have to be very serious and very business person. But is there room for kind of fun and doing something more entertainment based in your social media
absolutely. I
marketing?
mean, um, I'm always trying to joke around and make fun posts and make people laugh or whatever. But at the same time, it's a bit like if you relate it to dating, it's like if you think about a kind of guy you might want to date, do you want to date some like uptight, stiff corporate guy who's like really serious, or do you want someone who's going to make you laugh? But on the same time, do you want someone who's telling like 12 jokes a minute and everything they say is a joke? It gets too much then. You're like, I can't talk to this guy. I can't have a normal conversation. So it's about getting that kind of balance right. If we think about why does someone go on their phone onto Facebook? Like, I mean, if I ask you, Jackie, why does somebody go on Facebook? What would you say?
I think it would depend, but I think a lot of times people would just go onto Facebook to either catch up with their family, see what their friends are doing, or just to burn lazy time because
Right.
they're
Boredom.
bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's boredom. And like when you're on Facebook, most people are in zombie mode, just scrolling like this, like not even
Yeah.
thinking about what they're doing. They're not going on Facebook to be like, if I go on Facebook with a bit of luck, if I scroll a few posts, I'm going to find someone lecturing me about how great they are and how stupid I am. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
Nobody's thinking that. They're just like, that's why things like funny cat videos and like coronavirus memes get shared the hell out of because people laugh at them and they're like, oh, haha. It's like a bit of entertainment just to pass some time in the day. When they're like sat in work and they're like, they go and sit on the toilet for half an hour instead of working and they scroll on their phone. That's what they're doing. They're just like messing about on Facebook, scrolling. So I'm trying to tap into that, but not just entertaining them for the sake of being entertaining, but it's about if I can be entertaining enough so they're like, oh, it's actually fun to read this guy's posts. But at the same time, I'm sort of sneaking in the back door of his credibility and the teaching aspect and showing them stuff they don't know already.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of like, all right, I never thought about it like this. But if my teaching style is really kind of dry and boring and stiff, it's kind of harder to get them to consume that message. However, entertainment on its own doesn't make people spend money with you. You have to
Yeah.
have that credibility and they have to believe you can help them. But entertainment is kind of what keeps them reading my posts and coming back for more.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That makes complete sense. You made a really good analogy that I've also heard from other people in the industry, which is kind of thinking about your clients or your
Mm.
prospects or the people you're reaching, sort of like dating, right? So,
Mm.
and I love that analogy because I heard someone once say, like, are you gonna like that first time you meet someone, are you gonna go for the high ticket close? Like maybe once a year that'll work out for you, but you don't like get on and say, let's go in the back room and have a quickie. You're like, hey, we want to go to coffee. Hey, you want to go to lunch? You got to kind of court a partner, and that's kind of that same analogy to marketing as you need
Exactly. Yeah. I
to
mean, you
build a
can use the
relationship.
you can use the, you know, the backroom quickie opener if you like, and you know, every one in every 100,000, 10,000 women is going to say yes, but you're probably going to get quite a few drinks and slaps on your face in the meantime. So is it worth it? And I kind of see that. I sort of look at it another way, like in the sense of, you know, if we again we go back to a dating analogy, especially if you think about it from a guy's perspective, guys are traditionally the ones to approach. It's like, you know, the girl stands at the bar looking all nice, dolled up, drinking a mojito or whatever, and the guy's the one who's like, okay, let's do this. And she's like the Roman empress that sat up there being like, thumbs up or thumbs down, usually thumbs down. And you know, she gets to sit on the pedestal and be like, oh, here's another loser, see you later, but I'll let you buy me a drink first. Okay, now you can go, now I've got my free drink. And it's a bit like that, like, do you want to be the person who's approaching loads of people? In Facebook terms, that's like the person who sends like 100 cold messages every day saying, hey, sign up to my Facebook group, sign up to my thing, do you want to buy this? Hard work, and you might get one person saying yes out of 100, but you get 99 who are pissed off. Is it worth it? Or do you want to be the person who, well, you've made yourself appealing enough to a certain kind of person? So as a bloke, you know, you're not going to appeal to everyone, but maybe the kind of woman that you want to be with, now you've made yourself appealing to her, so she might come over to you. Now it's a different conversation. She's not defensive going, who's this weirdo who's approached me? She's approached you, and you get to have a different conversation. That's what I'm trying to do with my Facebook feed, where instead of bombarding people who aren't interested with worthless messages that just piss them off, it's like, well, how can I get the kind of people I want to work with to message me first? Then I'm not in like a needy position where I'm begging for their attention. They're coming to me asking for help. It's, for me,
Yeah,
now,
so it's
one
like a
thing that
different
sorry,
dynamic, right? It's like
it is a
a
different dynamic, yeah. And you know, one thing that people don't think enough of as business owners, or don't think enough about, is especially when they're in that place of, you know, when you're earning less than 10K a month, all you're thinking about is how can I get to 10K a month and beyond? How can I put food on the table? You're not necessarily thinking about things like fulfillment, enjoyment, you know, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, how many hours you're working, quality of life, that sort of thing.
yeah.
And you know, I started off my journey by messaging 50 people a day in this kind of fashion. And I just got to the point where I'm like, when people do this to me, it annoys me. So I'm doing this to other people. And yes, I'm getting people to say yes, but I don't like it. So is there another way of doing this that doesn't annoy lots of people? Also, what do I want to spend my time doing? I used to work in a corporate office for 8 hours a day, hating life. Do I want to sit at home hating life? But in a more precious situation, because I've got to make my own check now. I've got to make my own money, instead of being like, well, at least I can just sit there drinking coffee all day and get paid on the 29th of every month. Um, it's like, no, I don't do that. No, the reason I decided to work for myself is because I want to not work as hard, enjoy my own time, you know, write my own paycheck, enjoy what I'm doing, at least, you know, the vast majority of it. And basically spamming people does not really fit into that anyway, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that makes sense. So I love that you also shared that I spent about 20 years in healthcare IT data integration, so
Mm.
corporate, about as stuffy side of corporate as you can possibly get. And so when I made a decision to not do that, I was like hell bent on not replacing my job with a job.
Mm.
But at the beginning, I think you don't actually know another way of being. Like you
Mm, of
spent
course.
20 years being and sit your butt in the seat, you do the things for this long and you go. And then you know it's got to be different, so you work more. But I think it sounds like you found a different way to be able to run a business instead of having a job.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Still, so many people I see, especially people who first come to me when they become clients as well, they're stuck in that. Although they're working for themselves, they're still stuck in like a 9 to 5 mentality. They get up in the morning, you know, they get dressed and all that kind of stuff, have their breakfast, and then they work from 9 to 5. And I say, well, what were you doing all this time? And it turns out that probably 7 of 8 hours was worthless activity that they can stop doing, just throw it away. I'm like, this is not, well, is this increasing your credibility? Is it bringing you in any new leads? Is it helping you convert new leads? Is it improving your skill set in some way so you get better at any of these activities? Or is it just stuff you're doing to feel busy because, you know, you feel like you're not a proper business owner if you only work 1 hour a day? Whereas for me, I'm like, I feel a sense of achievement. If I can make a lot of money and work like 2 hours a day, that to me is better than making a lot of money and working like 20 hours a day. You don't get any extra points for like working harder and go, hey, look, I'm hustling and grinding. Aren't I great?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. there's almost a badge of honor right
Mm.
now that you get, like, for busyness, right? Like, I was actually listening on the escalator one day of like two lawyers, and one of them was basically one upping the other by saying, well, I worked, I stayed, look at me, I'm in the same clothes I was yesterday, I stayed over all night last night and worked hard. And it was like this little battle they were having at who
It's like,
like gave up more of their life than the other one, and that they win by being the one that was there longer. And I thought, oh my gosh,
it's like,
like,
congratulations, you just lowered your hourly rate. Well done.
exactly, exactly right. So I was like, that's not what I wanted. But I think that, like, if you could give someone advice, how can you transition from like that all in corporate, be busy, doing more and more hours, to not making your work your job, but making your work like around your lifestyle?
Mm.
What would it be the advice you'd give to people from one to the other to not make some of those same mistakes
Mm.
that I made and maybe some
Yeah,
might have?
a good question. Well, first of all, is to think about, well, what kind of lifestyle do you want? Instead of just going, I want an online business that replaces my income, what kind of lifestyle do you want? And there's some people out there, I'm not one of them, but they want to work 12, 13, 14 hours a day. They feel good doing it. It gives them a sense of achievement. And even if they're kind of wasting a lot of that time and doing stuff that doesn't really move the needle, they want to do that and they enjoy it. So I'm not telling those people to stop doing that, because, if it works for you, then great. But if you want to be working less, but you find yourself just sat at your machine all afternoon, and what you're really doing is scrolling Facebook for 3 hours, adding comments here and there to various people's posts, but not really doing anything of value, but you're able to tell yourself you had a hard day working, start looking at what you're doing from like an actual business perspective of like revenue. Is this I remember when one probably the only good thing I learned from being when I was back in MLM days, when I was like,
Yeah.
when I signed up as a distributor, I was like, there's a guy who said, you know, how much time per day do you engage in revenue producing activities? And that phrase stuck in my brain, revenue producing activities. And the more hours you spend a day doing revenue producing activities, guess what? The more revenue you make. So just start looking and like start writing down, this is how much time I spent yesterday. This is what I did. And when you look at what you did, you spent 4 hours yesterday dicking about on Facebook and Instagram, not doing anything. And does any of that like bring in new leads or clients? Does this make it more likely that someone's going to appear in my inbox? Is this converting people? So if it's like, you did something that brought in some more sales calls or people in your messenger inbox, brilliant, revenue producing activity. You wrote a sales letter, you produced an ad, revenue producing activity. You had a sales call. Maybe you followed a training on how to improve your sales. You signed up with a coach and you worked with that coach who helped you. Maybe they did like a mock sales call with you and it helps you improve your sales skills, revenue producing activity. But just sticking about on Instagram, writing plans, writing down like I'm going to do this next week, and writing, coming up with all these fancy spreadsheets and plans and stuff like that. You're making yourself feel good, but not doing anything. And I always think it's important to see the truth of what's going on. I had a guy who came to me, like, I think it was about September last year, and he was like, I'm not making any money, but I'm working quite hard. And I looked at what he was doing. He had a YouTube channel where he was putting, for the previous year, once a week, he put one new video on. So I'm like, great commitment to keep on going with it. Well, when I looked at what he'd got, he had 27 subscribers. So I'm like, look, what's going on here? And I don't want to be super harsh, is nobody's interested in your channel. It's like super mean of me, but I'm like, I want you to see the truth of what's going on. You've got a really good message to share, but what's going on is the way you're presenting that message is not palatable to your audience because they're not sharing your videos, and therefore your subscriber base is increasing, and people just aren't interested in what you've got to say. So the people who are seeing it aren't interested, and you're not attracting new people. So even if your message was interesting, enough people aren't seeing it. If we can make your message more interesting, move it over to Facebook, start adding people, make posts there instead of YouTube, you now could have 1,000 people seeing your post, and they actually resonate with it, and now they're going to start becoming clients. So really it's about going, how can I make my message more appealing to my audience and get more eyeballs on it of people I want to sign up? That's literally it.
Yeah.
Once you do that, you should start getting leads. Then it's a matter of improving your conversion. That's literally an entire business. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I had so one I have old MLM days too, but also
Mm.
A reasonably good coach of mine in the last few years has said, think about leading indicators, not just lagging indicators. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. And he's like, well, if every day you look and see how much weight you've lost in the scale, it can be daunting, right? But every single day you make sure you eat right, you make sure that you did your workout, you make sure that you, and if you apply that to business, you're doing your sales call, right? You're making lead calls, you're making, conversion activities. That's lead indicator.
Mm,
And then I
mm.
think what you were also talking about is, and evaluate the lag. If you
Yeah.
spent a year doing YouTube and you got 3 subscribers, it doesn't mean you wasted all your time. Maybe you could repurpose that, you could do whatever things, but it does mean that the lead indicator of doing it every day isn't getting you the lag indicator that you wanted. And so I think there's actually a mix of both. Like, what are you doing every day consistently, which is what you're like, good job, dude. But also, and are you getting the results that you're hoping to get?
Mm, yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's great. I mean, Perry Marshall, who I really like, I've followed him for a long time. He has a concept of what he calls 10K an hour activity. So like in any business, if you think of it like a pyramid, most activities in a business are like $10 an hour tasks, and you got some $100 an hour, then $1,000 an hour, and then 10K an hour, and then maybe 100,000 an hour. I don't know. But if you think of like 10K an hour task, if you can identify what those 10K an hour tasks are in your business and do them more often than not, for example, let's say you've got a sales letter you're going to be sending a ton of traffic to, and you spend an hour editing that so it gets like 0.5% better conversion. That's a 10K an hour activity. When you look at how much time you spent on it and how much extra money it's going to make, probably 100K an hour, depending on how much traffic you send there. But spending an hour deciding whether your logo is going to be red or blue, not a 10K not a 10K an hour activity. I can't even say it. No, that's like a $10 an hour activity. You'd be better off if you can avoid it. Outsource it to a logo designer. Let them design that kind of stuff for you. Don't worry about it. Focus on leads, clients, improving your conversion rate. And as you said, a lot of people miss that crucial extra bit, which is the evaluation. Um, a lot of the time, I think it's because as human beings, we all have an ego, don't we? And we don't want to admit we're wrong. And we don't, um, something called the sunk cost fallacy, which is, the more time you've invested into something, the harder it is to give it up. Going back to dating, you've been going out with someone for 5 years and the relationship's shit. It's harder to give it up than if you've been going out with them for 6 months, because you've invested 5 years into this damn thing and you don't want to admit to yourself it was a waste of time. So same with the guy over YouTube. He's like, he's been doing it for a year. He already knows before I point it out that he's not doing it right, that something's going wrong. But he's like, I'll just keep on going because I don't want to admit to myself that I've wasted a year. And as you said, it's not time wasted, even though he's learned something from that experience. But
Well, it's not wasted if you learn something
oh yeah,
from that
exactly.
experience,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's like kind
Yeah,
of
that's very true. Yeah. Yeah. But it's like
wow.
we don't want to admit to ourselves. That's why even now I still pay coaches to do exactly what I do for other people, because we all have blind spots. We all want to admit, we all want to think of ourselves as being so genius and brilliant and infallible and perfect in every way. And we don't want to look at ourselves in the mirror and see ourselves as what we are, which is flawed individuals who screw things up all the time. And really, what I'm paying someone to do is to be like, what are you doing that for, moron? Go and do this,
Yeah, yeah, it's
like
like
basically just to slap me on a daily
call
basis.
you on your bullshit detector, right?
Exactly.
Like you need
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
coach for that.
Yeah, and I've had a
Yeah.
number of clients who don't like that. They want me to tell them that they're amazing and their shit doesn't stink and it's everything they do is brilliant, and the only reason people aren't signing up is because their audience are idiots. It's like,
Right.
well,
You can
that's
send
not
them
what you're
to a
paying me for.
therapist, right? The
Yeah,
therapist can
yeah,
do
go
that.
go to a counselor for that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? This has been awesome, Richard. I think a lot of people are hopefully getting a lot of value out of it. If people want to learn how to stop making their real business just a job and use social media to get more clients and convert, like where can they find you? How do they get in touch with you so they can use some of your brain?
Use some of my brain. I like that. Well, the best place to go is my website, magicsourcemarketing.com. So we talked earlier about kind of the concept of what the magic source is and how to find it. On there, there's a free video. It's like 20 minutes long. You can watch it on 1.5 speed if you're like me and you want to, do it as quick as possible. And it will tell you like the 4 steps you have to follow to actually discover your own magic source. How do you stand out from the market? Because otherwise, you're going to be like that client of mine who just throwing content at the wall and hoping that one day it's going to stick. Once you figure out this first piece of the puzzle, that's like the foundation that you build the rest of your house upon. So go to the homepage there. You can watch that video. There's also a link to my Facebook group there, which people are welcome to come and join as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. And I look forward to staying in touch and learning a lot from you. So thanks a lot, Richard.
Great. Thanks for having me on, Jackie. I enjoyed it.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.